Okay, folks, we've got some update as to why the delay. It appears as though the networks on the East Coast are experiencing, on the East Coast of the U.S. are experiencing a severe outage. We don't know the reason, but going up and down the East Coast of the U.S., all of the universities are now offline. New York University Poly is off. The secondary one in New York is trying to dial in over a landline connection as opposed to the network. So this is what's taken some time here. We're going to wait another 5 minutes. In the event that doesn't work, then I will come back online and we will, because we don't know when those networks will come back up, rather than keeping you on dead air time, we will end the conference. So bear with us for 5 more minutes. If that doesn't work, then I'll come back on and we will close the session. I thank all of you for your patience in this. You'd have to see the network configuration and the activities that we've done in order to make this conference work the way we have. And we've experienced clearly hiccups in this, but keep in mind we have 63 universities, 44 countries, and there's not very much common that's between that infrastructure. So everything is unique, and bringing each site up is taking a lot longer. We bring them up early in the morning, 7:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning every day. They work, and then during the day, 4 or 5 hours pass, and the network goes out of sync, and then we have to put it back again when it's time just for the person to begin their speech. So we've learned some lessons in this. We're going to have to figure out how to do this differently so that we have all of the presentations here, and that with or without the speaker, we can run the presentations. So a very critical set of lessons learned on this. Our entire team's sincere apologies to you for the delays on this. Fabio is online, so we're going to, as soon as his audio comes up, we'll start the presentation. Thank you very much. Fabio, when you come online, please talk so we can hear you, and then we'll know, and then I'll turn the... Yeah, Fabio, make sure you enable your microphone. On the top. It's on the top of your screen. You have to click to turn the microphone on.
Russ, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. Thank you so much, Fabio, for rearranging your afternoon by 2.5 hours to be able to do this. We have the global community has been very patient, waiting for us to work through the technology issues. It seems as though the East Coast is experiencing a huge network outage. New York Poly is offline, along with 2 of the other presenters. So however you got in, we're going to take full advantage of it. I'll stop talking. You brief. I'll turn it over to you. Your slide deck is up. All you have to do is say next slide, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Hey, so good afternoon. My name is Fabio Alfan. I want to thank you for giving the opportunity to present, talk a little bit about digital multimedia forensics and what I've been in that field for quite a while, both from the law enforcement side as a practitioner and manager of digital forensics and multimedia, as well as on the academic side. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of my experience. I'm retired law enforcement from the New York State Police. I'm a retired state trooper. I was with the state police for over 26 and a half years. I also had some previous law enforcement experience in corrections. About half of my career with the state police specifically dealt with cybercrime and digital forensics. I rose to the rank of, started out as trooper, then investigator and lieutenant, where I was the operations manager for the computer forensic laboratory and 9 regional smaller labs in New York State. I was a QC manager also, dealing with the digital forensics operations. I've been qualified by ASCLAT Lab as a technical assessor of digital and multimedia forensics. I was a certified instructor teaching law enforcement, cybercrime, and as well as I'm still certified examiner, and I've testified in court a couple hundred times. Once I retired from the state police last year, I started teaching on the academic scenario, although I was an instructor at the community college for several years before I even retired. And I do have a couple of degrees there dealing with management, one on digital forensics. I'm a consultant now, just so I can put everything out on the table. I'm a consultant in this area. I'm a licensed private investigator in New York State, and as well as still participate in multiple professional organizations. And I'm currently an academic instructor at the State University of New York in Albany. Next slide. Well, here's as we've recognized, and a lot of practitioners that have participated in other work groups, specifically myself, the greatest challenges that really are for us here in the 21st century is how to really improve our digital forensics global community. We've gone through a lot of work on a national level in the United States, and even though it's not where we as practitioners would like it to be, but it's been quite a lot of work. There's a lot of disparities out in the global community, so I like to see that forensic community improve on the global side as well as the profession, and that can only occur with private and public sector partnerships. Okay, it's about sharing the knowledge. There's a lot of smart people out there, a lot of people that are being tested through experience and challenges and overcome challenges, and that's the knowledge that we need to share. Research is also a challenge because there's a lot of academic research. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of it in this field, number one. And number two, quite often the research has nothing that's been delivered to the actual people that are doing the work. Okay, there's a lot of theoretical work, hypothetical work, but not actual real deliverables that somebody potentially could implement in an operation. Okay, and we need mentorships, obviously, from students and practitioners, people that are actually doing the work. We need to improve that relationship. The international cooperation has to occur because, again, it's international and as an interest internationally, and we have international students that are going back with some knowledge. They need that help back when they return back to their countries to push this forensic discipline out in their individual countries and communities. Okay, and of course, the resource sharing. Not a single entity has all the resources or can maintain all the resources for a very long time, so we need to share that resource globally. Next slide, please. What I see it as, and we see it quite often out there, the real challenge is I know in the United States has been for a long time a school of we need to have anybody that does any digital and multimedia forensic operation or any forensics to be accredited as a laboratory, okay? And again, it's very hard to demand that every forensic operation, small or large, be accredited, as well as we can also not ignore that altogether and say, well, you know, maybe my operation cannot work under those accreditation standards, so therefore I'm not going to have any. But we know the challenge is that when you have no standards whatsoever, bad things will happen, both on the quality control as well as on the legal side. Realistically, no matter how much of a training program you have and how much of a training program you have in the entire country, you cannot train every individual to handle digital multimedia evidence in any advanced technique or tool. You can only teach the majority of these people rudimentary skills, nothing advanced. You have to select a core group of people that probably can maintain an advanced level of training and knowledge, and unfortunately, therefore, you can't train everybody. Okay, realistically, and I know that from New York State alone, you cannot expect to send all evidence that is seized across a country, a state, to one single location. It's not going to happen. If it does, you're going to have huge backlogs of evidence to be processed, not enough people, not enough money, okay? And the central location is also creates a challenge, the fact that you have to transport this evidence over long distances. In New York State alone, that's the reason why we spread the lab that we had in the central location to an additional 9 regional locations, because realistically, you cannot handle all that evidence. In New York State, and just only New York State, when I was with the state police, we were handling anywhere between 8,000 to 16,000 pieces of evidence in a given year. You cannot send all that evidence to a single location. As I mentioned before, academic research has to deliver deliverables to the practitioners. And I know that a lot of the research that goes on deals primarily with an individual working on their PhD, or because they get some grant money to actually do a specific type of research. But it has to be delivered in such a way that you immediately give the opportunity to the practitioners, the institutions, the agencies, the law enforcement agency, government agency, an opportunity to consider that to put immediately into operation. And of course, the financial research, the financial part of it, and the research resources are very limited or non-existent in some instances. Next slide. Again, as I mentioned before, there's a divided approach, and I've seen it here manifest itself in the United States, in New York State, where you have a school of individuals that want full accreditation for everything: techniques, tools, quality control, personnel qualification. On the other side of that, talking in the opposite direction, in the forensic community, saying, well, there should be no standards whatsoever, because it makes it hard for us to operate. Okay. On the realistic side, there's not a single set of forensic standards that can be applied to all practitioners, because again, legal standards are different in every state, every country. Okay, and the training standards are based in that individual agency or corporation is based on what is their mission and priorities. Okay, and their priority may not be forensics. I'll give you the example. Law enforcement priority is to serve and protect, solve crime, and arrest people. As a secondary mission and priority is then to provide forensic support, crime scene support. So therefore, you have to establish that you have to, right from the beginning, establish that there's not a single set of standards that are going to be applicable for practitioners. There are some standards that are applicable to practitioners out in the field, and there's other standards that apply or more practical to laboratory personnel. So you can't really just measure everything by one yardstick. Okay, and then of course somewhere in the middle we have to find that ground that'll work for both small operations, large operations, government operations, corporate operations. Next slide. I think the best way to approach it, and the way that I've been involved in approaching this for a while, is a multi-layer. It requires really at this point to have international recommended best practices dealing with multimedia forensics. It'll provide a roadmap for the practitioners or the agencies or the corporations, so that they have an idea if they're kind of doing the work like everybody else is potentially doing it. The curriculum has to support it. Academic curriculum has to support that. Digital forensics or multimedia forensics cannot be approached on the fact that I develop a curriculum and that's going to be good enough for the next 5 years to teach the same thing. That's not really a good curriculum when it comes to technology. As we know, technology changes very often. Your curriculum should reflect those changes. And then, as I mentioned before, academic research should be something that can be operationally applicable, that can be implemented or feasible for the entities to be implement that research. And it cannot last several years. This research has to be short-term. Next slide. Another way to approach it, and which we've been doing here in the United States, and similar to what the endeavors that you guys have taken, is you have to work in work groups that are specifically comprised of subject matter experts, mixed. Usually mixed is better because it gives you different perspectives and points of view. And it should be, and if you're talking about forensic subject matter experts, they should be people that are involved in actual practitioners, people that have done the work and that are involved in quality control. Because regardless if you are accredited or not, there has to be some kind of quality control protocols. and as well as educators whose primary goal of an educator is to teach. So therefore, that educator is involved in this work group to determine, okay, how do we research this? How do we develop and how do we teach and disseminate these best practices? Okay. Corporate partners are integral. One, because they own the infrastructure of most governments. Government normally doesn't operate the major infrastructure. It is usually corporate. It may be regulated by government, but it's actually corporate. So we need corporate to provide technological, financial, academic, and training support for this forensic community. We need qualified, and I mentioned qualified legal advisors. It's not just good enough to be an attorney, but an attorney that has been in the field for a while, prosecuting or involved in corporate cybercrime or digital forensics cases. That way they can continually go back to their individual states and countries and facilitate the acceptance of these best practices, and it encourages the changes of the law. As the technology changes, the laws should change. I know that in the United States alone, there's a lot of laws that are not catching up fast enough to the technology changes. Therefore, what happens is some old laws are being applied to new technology and not necessarily measure up to that level. Next slide. Just want to talk a little bit about what I'm currently involved in, or universities involved in. The State University of New York system is comprised of 64 campuses across the New York State, but incredibly, none had a bachelor's degree program in digital forensics. You may have combinations of cyber security, or you may have a computer science degree with an emphasis on cybersecurity or forensics, but not a pure digital forensics BS degree. So we're implementing this 4-year bachelor's degree program in digital forensics at the State University of New York in Albany. And it falls, interestingly, it falls under the School of Business, under the Information Technology Management. A lot of these schools that may have similar programs usually fall either on the criminal justice side or on the computer science side. This approach is very unique because digital forensics goes across all three: business, criminal justice, and computer science. But if you develop this program to cater to the demands of the corporate world, it's going to address the criminal justice and the computer science, because again, all these are completely intermingled with digital forensics. We have a partnership with several corporations that are currently engaged in regular auditing and accounting in other fields, and they're interested in digital forensics graduates. That's one of the challenges that these corporations have, is when they recruit individuals and they hire them for work, and now they're all of a sudden they're working in dealing with information security management or incident response. They have no experience, knowledge, or any knowledge whatsoever dealing with digital forensics, much less about preparing proper incident response plans in those corporations. And of course, government is always involved in a lot of these work groups, because it's usually public and private sector work groups that are out there, and specifically in New York State, and government is included, as well as law enforcement. Next slide. While developing this bachelor's science degree in digital forensic, we immediately partnered up with 6 community colleges that currently are offering 2-year degrees in digital forensics or computer forensics, so that we can establish a pipeline of students that can come in right into the bachelor's degree program. The challenge with the community colleges 2-year degrees is, here in the United States, if you come out with a 2-year degree in just about anything in the technology side, you're not going to get a job. They're looking for 4-year degrees. So for these community colleges, their choice of these students were to transfer to a private college, which is a lot more expensive, and some students cannot afford that, or completely change majors, which then again defeated the purpose of them spending 2 years in a computer security or computer forensics program. Entry into the bachelor's degree program in digital forensics is going to be through a 2+2 transfer, meaning that they can complete 2 years there satisfactory, and then transfer to the U Albany to finish the additional 2 years. And that is a joint agreement that will be written so that students will know what courses need to be taken at the community college and what courses they will be taking when they come to U Albany. There's also a joint acceptance that's going to be incorporated into the program, that a student can apply and apply for both the community college and U Albany into this program and be accepted into both, and therefore the student can complete many courses at the 2-year level, which is considerably less tuition, and then upon completion of those 2 years, they've already been accepted into the program, they just switch schools. Or there is the direct acceptance into U Albany, where the students will be able to apply directly into the 4-year program at U Albany. Once we incorporate the students into the program, there will be current GPA requirements in the School of Business is 3.5. So we're going to stay to that to ensure that we have students that are motivated and are committed to the program. And of course, in an era of the 21st century, the courses are going to be delivered through classroom, hands-on exercises, virtual classrooms with some data analysis involved, or a hybrid of both, where the student may be able to do the flipped classroom model, where they will be able to do a lot of the work remotely and then coming into class and actually participate in exercises to fortify that knowledge and to ensure that they actually are doing their homework from home or wherever they may be at. And of course, by doing that hybrid of virtual physical classroom or a hybrid, you ensure that you have local, national, or international students that are participating in the program. Next slide. Here's just some of the core courses that are part of the digital forensics program. At the 200 level course, we'll have like an intro class and a cybercrime investigation. That's to kind of get the interest of the student to come in. I currently already teach the 200 level classes, and it's a very big mix in that class, which is great because you have criminal justice students, accounting students, business students, political science students, and computer science students attending the 200 level class, and it kind of gives them a kind of a peek into the field of digital forensics and cybercrime to see if they're interested in this field. The 300 level course, we go into obviously a little more in-depth curriculum dealing with Computer Forensics 1, which deals with heavy hands-on hardware, write blockers, exposure to the students, what typically is the digital forensics hardware that's utilized in the field, as well as data analysis. And then Computer Forensics 2, it's completely all data analysis, where complex data is given to students under specific mock scenarios, and they in turn will have to examine the data, and based on the scenario and the legal authority to do so, extract, compile, produce reports as necessary. And then moving on to the network and mobile device forensics, because part of the network forensics is also mobile device. Mobile device, we all know, is actually a live device that's connected to a network. So that's why it's connected with the network forensics. And then e-discovery, electronic discovery forensics, which is heavier on the civil side rather than criminal. And again, with its unique tools and techniques and legal requirements that are going to be covered. At the 400 level course, it's not going to be so much as instructional. It actually, as a student is coming in on the 400 level class, they're going to have the knowledge of the 200 and 300 level courses having completed as a prerequisite, and they're going to be engaged in heavy scenario, multiple scenarios, data analysis, hardware analysis, and depending what is the latest, greatest technology or challenges are out there, and those are the ones going to be tackled, where the student, based on their knowledge and ongoing research that they may have to do during the course, they will satisfy the curriculum by doing reports, presenting those report findings before a panel of subject matter experts, and they'll be guided along by the instructor, obviously, through the course project, whatever the course project may be, as well as whatever the scenarios or mock case studies that they'll be working on. And ultimately, the work that they do at that advanced digital forensics course, they will have to present before a court, a moot court, a mock court, where you'll have attorneys there, subject matter experts that will listen to the testimony, and actually sitting in the audience of the moot court will be their fellow students, so that they're learning from each other, as well as receiving guidance from the panel and the instructors. So that'll be a good wrap up for the students. Those are just the digital forensic core courses. Next slide. All right. Along in the program, also, it's going to be required that these students go through complete many elective credits. All the students will be exposed to a lot of electives in the criminal justice, business, and computer science fields. So it's not just a computer science person that's going to go through the whole program and nothing else. That computer science program a student will be exposed to criminal justice challenges and issues, as well as business. And again, exposing the student to the multifacets of digital multimedia forensics, which spans all three fields and then more fields. We're going to incorporate proficiency testing, lab analysis reporting, and industry certifications. For anybody who's familiar with laboratory operations, these are a very important part of digital forensics, which is proficiency testing of the individuals and their ability to do the job, the lab analysis reporting, which is, again, required in any accredited or standardized operation, and as well as industry certifications that are current and normally accepted by the forensic community. And that's going to supplement the studies. The 300 and 400 level courses will incorporate student course projects that are going to be part of the curriculum, and those are going to be short-term research. Short-term meaning that it has to be started and completed by the end of the semester, okay? And it'll deal anything from industry laws and regulations, technologies, methods, and tools dealing with cybercrime and digital forensics, okay? And of course, the students will be encouraged to participate in professional organizations, such as the ones that are listed there. Normally, all these organizations usually have a student. They either waive the professional fees, member fees for students, or they have very low member fees. Next slide. That's just my contact information, both the academic side as well as the private consulting side. Don't hesitate to either email or give me a call in either one. And I really look forward to continue to participate with this group. Just from the documents that were sent to me, there were, I think there's a lot of good potential on a global span that for the digital multimedia forensics. So please don't hesitate to send me an email or give me a call in case you have any questions. Does anybody want to raise any questions now that I can answer?
Yeah, Fabio, it's Russ. One of the key things that we'd like to pursue with you is establishing the direct connection between your university and the University Federal here in Alagos. We want to actually extend that, and I will talk to you offline about this, about having you perhaps be a guest lecturer here. But we'd like to sync your program with 4 other global universities and UFAL here, so that we'll be able to produce the first internationally accepted digital forensic scientist certification and degree program in the, So stand by for that. Talk to the folks in your university. They'll be expecting a phone call from me.
Yeah, absolutely. I spoke just before this conversation here with my chair, and he wants me to keep him appraised on how we developed and how we continue to work here together, and they're definitely interested. The University of Albany does have 4 agreements with other universities in the world dealing on the cybersecurity side, and we're going to extend those agreements to include the digital forensic side. So we're definitely looking forward to expanding that global community in this field.
All right. Thank you once again. And we're very appreciative for you to move your afternoon around so that we could do this. So,
well, thank you for the invitation, and I apologize if I went a little fast. That way I wanted to make sure that I got in there, got your stuff in there, and then it's not going to throw the other speaker too far off.
Truthfully, that throwing the other speakers off isn't the real problem. The problem is the network. It makes them unavailable. New York Poly is the next presenter, and as we started talking before I asked you the question about the university, they were online, everything was there. Now they've just sent a text that the network on the East Coast is down again. So I'm not sure how we're going to be able to do this. Ellen Carr's on the phone talking to him right now to see if it's possible to bring it back up. And if not, then we're going to stop the conference but we're waiting to see.
Ross, I just wanted to please consider me in hopefully forward me to me any of the documents or the other presentations that I was not able to listen to, so that I can bring the whole package of what's going on there to my higher-ups.
Yeah, we're going to make all of the presentations, with the exception of the ones that we were told we cannot share. But otherwise, all of the presentations will be made available via the ic4mf.org website, and you'll be able to download them because they're all public. And so we'll do that, and in addition, I'll have the separate documentation suite for the establishing a stronger partnership between our two universities.
Sounds like a plan to me, and I'm eagerly awaiting your contact information whenever we're ready to do those talks, and I'll catch up my chair of the department in that direction, and definitely look forward to working together with your university down there.
Thank you very much again, Fabio. We really appreciate that. So, are there any questions from the community on this briefing or any of the topics that we've discussed today or yesterday? If so, chat, and we're looking at it, and we'll be able to respond to you. Yeah. Or raise your hand on your web browser, and you'll be able to talk. We'll turn your microphone on. Well, while we're waiting, I would like to thank all of you for your participation. It's been 2 days of conferences and presentations. We know how hard that is. We encourage you to continue with us, and the big shows will be better. We have the law enforcement one at the end of the month. We have a legal conference on the 27th. We'll have another general presentation of the update and the announcement of all of the work group leaders and the coordination and the agreed tasks in the first week of December. And then we invite all of you in January to come to Maceo for the first international physical conference on this. It's a beautiful place to come. Europe and the U.S. will be experiencing cold, so it's deep winter for you in January, but that's high summer for us. We've got gorgeous beaches. If you haven't taken the time to look at where Maceo is and the photos of Maceo and our beaches, it's the South American Riviera. So it is gorgeous. I live here now. But I'm not biased. We've recorded the sessions, and we will edit them and then make them available so that the participants and the members of the IC4MF various work groups will be able to play them via our website. In the member site and in the virtual tech park. So we're open to suggestions and comments of how we can make this better. We'll definitely have to be looking at how we do the networking and the collaboration, the number of universities and sites on a global basis that we're connected. Certainly give us challenges. So we might have to figure out how to reduce the number of connections. We're waiting for New York Poly for another minute or two, and if they don't come back online, then we'll just close the session and say thank you.